Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vishnu Paraparamahamsa Pri Vrajikacharya Stotra Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Paraparamahamsa Pri Vrajikacharya Stotra Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Shri Goswami Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th canto, 1st chapter, text number 17, all throughout the end of the chapter. 17. No. 17. And we're going to finish the chapter today, too. There's a lot of small, just translations without purports. So, text 17. Shri Shuka Uvacha Iti Mantropanishadam Vyaharantam Samahitam Drishtvasura Yathudhana Jagdum Abhyadravan Kṣudha Shri Shuka Uvacha Iti mantropanishadam Vyaharantam samahitam Drishtva yatadhana Jagdum abhyadravan kṣudha. Shri Shuka Uvacha Iti mantropanishadam Vyaharantam samahitam Drishtva yatudhana Jagdum abhyadravan kṣudha. Shri Shuka Uvacha Iti mantropanishadam Vyaharantam samahitam Drishtva yatudhana Jagdum abhyadravan kṣudha. Please chant. Shri Shuka Uvacha Iti mantropanishadam Vyaharantam samahitam Drishtva yatudhana Shri Shuka Uvacha Iti mantropanishadam Shuka Anyone online would like to chant? Okay. Sri Shuka Uvacha. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, Iti, thus, Mantropanishadam, the Vedic mantra uttered by Swayambhava Manu, Vyaharantam, that or chanted, Samahitam, concentrated the mind without being agitated by material conditions. Vishtva, upon seeing him. Asuraha, the demons. Yatudhanaha, the Rakshasas. Jagdhum, desired to devour. Abhyadravan, running very fast. Kṣudha, to satisfy the appetite. Translation. Shukadev Goswami continued, Swayambhava Manu was thus in trance, chanting the mantras of Vedic instruction, known as the Upanishads. Upon seeing him, the Rakshasas and Asuras, being very hungry, wanted to devour him. Therefore they ran after him with great speed. So, before I continue, I'll just offer the prayers. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksharan Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vancha Kalpatrubhishcha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prashtaya Bhatale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namire Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvichesha Shunivari Prashtaya Desha Tarine. So we'll just continue reading. There's a few texts to read. This is text number 18, translation. The Supreme Lord Vishnu, who sits in everyone's heart, appearing as Yagyapati, observed the Rakshasas and demons who were going to devour Swayambhava Manu. Thus the Lord, accompanied by his sons, named the Yamas, and by all of the demigods, killed the demons and Rakshasas. He then took the post of Indra and began to rule the heavenly kingdom. The purport. The various names of demigods, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Indra, and so on, are not personal names. They are names of different posts. In this regard, we understand that Lord Vishnu sometimes becomes Brahma or Indra when there is no suitable person to occupy this post. So, this is the description of 4 Manus in this chapter. Swayambhava Manu, Swartisha Manu, Uttama, and Tamasa Manu. And in each Manvantara, which lasts about 71 Chatur Yugas, or Divya Yugas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead descends. The word man is derived from the word Manu, like we have that text in the Bhagavad Gita, Manushanam Sahasreshu, Kashititati Siddhaya. And we see that we are all descendants of the original Manu. So Manus, their duty is to administer the universe, and they are appointed to rule by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are 14 Manus, which are appointed to rule in one day of Lord Brahma, one kalpa. And besides the Manu himself, there's also some other great personalities like Devatas, Lord Indra, his sons, Saptarishis, like that, and of course the Manvantara avatar of the Lord will come. So now we're hearing about Swayambhava Manu, who was performing great austerities. He was standing for 100 years on one leg and glorifying the Lord. He was reciting very nice mantras, amazing mantras, which they resemble the mantras presented in Sri Upanishad to some degree. Not all of them, but some of them. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he describes this moment that actually Swayambhava Manu was entering samadhi. He was in complete trance. He was meditating on these mantras, and he was in trance. So the asuras and rakshasas, they saw him, and they thought that he's helpless, so they wanted to devour him. They wanted to come and eat him, as the asuras do. But then we see that Kṛṣṇa came, Lord Vishnu came and saved them from the Rakshasas. And then eventually he took the post of Indra, Lord Indra. We see that there's names of demigods, Lord Brahma, Lord Indra, and also Lord Shiva. It's not actually a name, it's a post that they take, the Jiva takes. And sometimes when there's no one qualified, Lord Vishnu comes himself and takes that post. So we continue reading text number 19. The son of Agni named Svarachisha became the second Manu. So this is a description of the second Manu. His several sons were headed by Dyumat, Shushena, and Ruchishmat. Purport. Mandantara Manu Deva, Manuputra Sareshwaraha, Vishayom Shivatarascha, Harer Sat Vidamuchite. There are many incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead: Manu, the Manu Putra, the sons of Manu, the king of heavenly planets, the 7 great sages, all partial incarnations of the Supreme Lord, Manu himself, his sons Priyavrata and Uttamaśloka, the demigods created by Daksha, and the rishis like Marichi, all partial incarnations of the Lord during the reign of Swayambhava Manu. During that time, the incarnation of the Lord as Yajna took charge of ruling the heavenly planets. The next Manu was Svarachisha Manu. The Manus and the sages and demigods are further described in the following 11 verses. So this is the description of Svarachisha Manu, who was the second one of the 14. We'll hear in this chapter at least of 4 of them. And we see that Manu himself and his sons, Priyavrata and Uttamaśloka, they are 2 brothers, are mentioned here in this text. And I was just reminded of the pastime of King Priyavrata. It's a wonderful pastime. There's many things to learn. He was a great devotee, always absorbed from very early age, very austere. He was absorbed in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, fixed in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, because of his spiritual master, Narada Muni, who was teaching him the way of renunciation. And he was just telling him, just go into the mountains and perform devotional service, chant the holy name. That should be the success of your life. But at some point, there was no one to rule the planet, so Swayambhava Manu, his father, came and he wanted to engage him in ruling the kingdom of the planet. And at first, King Priyavrata, he rejected. He said, no, this is dangerous for my spiritual life. How can I take up this post? I will be entangled. He was worried about that. And then Swayambhava Manu, he called Lord Brahma to come down on his carrier, the swan carrier. And when Lord Brahma comes, he always comes with the also personified Vedas. And there were also other great personalities, Marichi, Atreya, Vasishta, and 3 more Mahajanas. Narada Muni was there, Lord Shiva, and Lord Indra, like that. They were all, they gathered together. Excuse me, not Indra, Lord Shiva. They gathered together and they were trying to convince King Priyavrata to take up the post, the position of the king. And I mean, if you look at that position, it's such an entangling position, because you have your obedient citizens who are always eager to fulfill all of your desires, and also you have all the opulences at your disposal. It's a dangerous position to be in if you want to be Kṛṣṇa conscious. It's very tempting. So yeah, we can see that concern of King Priyavrata was definitely legit. It's exactly opposite of the lifestyle he was living in renunciation. But eventually he had to surrender to the authority. That's the lesson of King Priyavrata. We see that if authority comes and they want to engage you in some kind of service, then you have to agree, you have to follow. Although Narada Muni was there on one side telling him to renounce and do not participate in family life, just remain a brahmachari, fixed in your devotional service. On the other hand, we see his father, Lord Brahma, and the Mahajans, they are also telling him, please engage in ruling over the kingdom. So what to do? And in a situation like this, of course, you can't just part ways. You have to follow both instructions. So that's what King Priyavrata did. He ruled the kingdom accordingly. And then he renounced and he was successfully going back home, back to Godhead. And actually one time, one disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he asked him, we have Maya, a constant companion and servant of Kṛṣṇa. She's like a shadow, always follows him everywhere. And he was saying that if I just serve Maya, I will be pleasing Kṛṣṇa, because Maya is Krishna's servant. And Srila Prabhupada said that if you serve Kṛṣṇa indirectly in this way, there will be one result. There will be lamentation, misery, there will be grief and disappointment. But if you serve Kṛṣṇa directly, the result will be completely different. There will be eternal, blissful, knowledgeable life, like that. But it was pretty clever to say that if you serve Maya as the servant of Kṛṣṇa. So, yeah, the essence of bhakti is that it's not. You don't have to be a completely renounced, take up the sannyas ashram to be Krishna conscious, to be a pure devotee of Kṛṣṇa. If you can gain bhakti in your household, it's a situation in which Kṛṣṇa will be also helping you in a similar way as is helping anyone else who's a renouncant. Kṛṣṇa explains in the Bhagavad Gita in the 11th verse of the 4th chapter, Ye tamam prapadyante tam stataya bhajamyaham. He says that if you surrender to me, Ye tamam prapadyante, then I reward you accordingly, according to your surrender, I reciprocate with you. Bhajamyaham. So it doesn't matter whether you're renouncant or householder, you can still develop pure bhakti. Of course, by the mercy of spiritual master and the devotees. So this is something about King Priyavrata, a wonderful pastime in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And now we'll continue reading, text 20. During the reign of Swartishmanu, the post of Indra was assumed by Rochana, the son of Yagya. Tushita and others became the principal demigods, and Urja, Stambha, and others became the 7 saints. All of them were faithful devotees of the Lord. Vedashir was a very celebrated rishi. From the womb of his wife, whose name was Tushtita, came the avatar named Vibhu. Vibhu remained a brahmachari and never married throughout his life. From him, 88,000 other saintly persons took lessons in self-control, austerity, and similar behavior. O king, the 3rd Manu, Uttama, was the son of King Priyavrata. Among the sons of the Manu were Pavana, Snigdhya, and Yajnahotra. During the reign of the 3rd Manu, Pramada and other sons of Vashishta became the 7 sages. The Satyas, Vedashutas, and Bhadras became demigods, and Satyajit was selected to be Indra, the king of heaven. So with this is just describing the different positions of, along with the position of the Manu, who were taking those positions. In this Manvantara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared from the womb of Shunrita, who was the wife of Dharma, the demigod in charge of religion. The Lord was celebrated as Satyasena, and he appeared with other demigods known as Satyavratas. Text 26. Satyasena, along with his friend Satyajit, who was the king of heaven, Indra, killed all the untruthful, impious, and misbehaved yakshasas, rakshasas, and ghostly living entities who gave pains to other living beings. That's what the yakshasas and rakshasas do. They always give us pains and to everyone. So the brother of the 3rd Manu, Uttama, was celebrated by the name Tamasa, and he became the 4th Manu. So that's the last Manu, text 27. Tamasa had 10 sons, headed by Prithu, Kyati, Nara, and Ketu. And I was wondering if this is a mention of Prithu. Is that the Prithu Maharaj that we all very well know of? Or because he didn't have a... his father was Venu.
This doesn't. It says Tamasa. Tamasa was his father, so maybe a different Prithu.
Might be a different one. But Maharaj Prithu, I was also just reminded of him. Wonderful, amazing pastime of someone who was an ideal king, an ideal ruler of the world, Saktivesha avatar. And he was ruling. He actually, before he took the post, he every demigod, and Lord Vishnu himself gave him a lot of gifts. Lord Vishnu gave him the Sudarshan disc, and Lord Brahma gave him this garments which were made out of spiritual knowledge. Then he had a sword from Shiva, like that. And then he took up the post and the position of the ruler. And he was supporting Brahminical culture, protecting old people and children, and also respecting innocent and poor, and engaged everyone in service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's what was his goal. He advised the citizens to become adokshaja diyaha, which means God consciousness. He wanted everyone to become God conscious according to their occupation to serve the Lord. And he is known for two more things. He, before the reign of King Prithu, on this planet Earth, there was no arrangement for cities and villages. The Earth was completely scattered. So he shaped the planet Earth. He he made a transformation. He constructed the residential quarters according to convenience of people. He put up villages and cities, places where you can take care of the cows and different things like that. So he made those arrangements. And also what he did, when he started ruling Mother Earth, she was withholding all the grains and different eatable things. So Maharaj Prithu, he convinced her to, and the reason why she was withholding is because King Venu was devastatingly being very violent to the planet Earth, and she was afraid. She was very scared of the king. And so she was also worried that the next king who took up the post is also going to be just exploiting her. And so that was a reason why she was withholding all the eatable things. But in time, he convinced her, given arguments. And what happened that the planet Earth requested a calf and a pot and someone who would milk it, so she would feel some kind of a motherly affection, so the milk and all these grains and eatable things would come out. So he actually, the first person he used as a calf, he transformed Swayambhava Manu into a calf. And like that, in time, all different great sages would transform into a calf. And the Mother Earth gave everything that she was withholding for a while from the king and the residents. So that's what Maharaj Prithu, with his noble character and great authoritative preaching, that's what he did to help the world. So, text 28. During the reign of Tamasa Manu, among the demigods were Satyakas, Haris, and Viras. The heavenly king Indra was Tushika. The sages in Saptarishidham were headed by Jyotirdham. Text number 28. O king, in the Tamasa Manvantara, the sons of Vidviti, who were known as the Vaidvitis, also became demigods. Since in course of time the Vedic authority was lost, these demigods by their own powers protected the Vedic authority. Purport. In the Tamas Manvantara there were two kinds of demigods, and one of them was known as Vaidvitis. The duty of the demigods is to protect the authority of the Vedas. The word Devata refers to one who carries the authority of the Vedas, whereas Rakshasas and those who defy the Vedic authority. If the authority of the Vedas is lost, the entire universe becomes chaotic. Therefore, it is the duty of the demigods as well as the kings and aides of governments to give protection, full protection to the Vedic authority. Otherwise, human society will be in a chaotic condition in which there cannot be peace or prosperity. So that's also another... In this way, we see that Maharaj Prithu was very nobly protecting the Vedic teachings. He wanted the citizens to be abided by the Vedas. Apart from his father, King Venu, he was completely opposite compared to Maharaj Prithu. So it's a duty of a king to protect the citizens, to protect the Vedas, and engage everyone according to their occupation. As well as the demigods, it's also their duty. So text number 30. Also in this Manvantara, the Supreme Lord Vishnu took birth from the womb of Harini, the wife of Harimedha, and he was known as Hari. Hari saved his devotee Gajendra, the king of the elephants, from the mouth of a crocodile. Now this is the appearance of Lord Hari, who will come in future chapters. In the next few chapters we'll hear about the pastimes of Gajendra, and it's a wonderful pastime. I believe so. Yeah, his crisis is coming up in the chapter 2. Then his wonderful prayers, and then we'll see how Gajendra returns to the spiritual world. So yeah, next few chapters we'll hear about the wonderful pastime of Gajendra, and they battle with the crocodile. And Hari will come as in this Manvantara as the avatar of this Manvantara to save him at the end. Now text 31. King Parikshit said, "My Lord Badarayani, we wish to hear from you in detail how the king of the elephants, when attacked by a crocodile, was delivered by Hari." So King Parikshit is anticipating to hear that pastime. He's appealing to hear. And there's a couple more texts. I know there's a lot of reading, but we're finishing up the chapter here. So this 32, any literature or narration in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Uttamaśloka, is described and glorified is certainly great, pure, glorious, auspicious, and all good. Purport. The Kṛṣṇa consciousness movement is spreading all over the world simply by describing Kṛṣṇa. We have published many books, including Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in 17 volumes, 400 pages each, as well as Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion. We're also publishing Srimad Bhagavatam in 60 volumes. So Srila Prabhupada is mentioning the books that devotees published. This is 1976. The previous canto ended in May of 1976. So, yeah, by that time, these books were published by BBT. And now we'll hear how Srila Prabhupada emphasized the reading discourses of these books. He says, wherever a speaker holds discourses from these books and an audience hears him, this will create a good and auspicious situation. Therefore, the preaching of Kṛṣṇa consciousness must be done very carefully by the members of the Kṛṣṇa consciousness movement, especially the sannyasis. This will create an auspicious atmosphere. So it's one of our main things for the devotees to do is to discuss the books of Srila Prabhupada, engage in kirtan. And when we do these things, it creates an auspicious environment, and everyone feels very happy and satisfied. Tushyanti charamanticha. Krishna explains in the Charushloka of Bhagavad Gita, he explains about Sambandha Jnana. Like, Sambandha Jnana means realizing that Lord Krishna is the fountainhead of everything. Both spiritual and material worlds are created by him. And wise people who understand this, they engaged in devotional service to him. And then he explains the process of Abhideya. This is in text number 9, the next one. He explains how devotees, they machita madgata prana, buddhayanta parasparam, kathayanta shtamamtyam, tushyanti cha ramanticha. Devotees are engaged in perpetually hearing and discussing the pastimes of the Lord together. And while doing so, they observe the consciousness, their mind, the intelligence in these pastimes, and their very life, their very prana in these pastimes. And discussing among each other, it gives them great joy. Tushyanti charamanticha. It's very pleasing and it's very satisfying to devotees. So this is the abhideya. This is what we should be doing in our spiritual life. Shravanam, kirtanam, Vishnu smaranam, padasevanam. This is the main things. Our main service is to chant without any offenses, and chant the holy name. And not only in japa, but also in kirtan. It's important to also come together and maintain a proper mood. One time when Ayendra Prabhu was arranging the 24-hour kirtan, he was emphasizing one very important thing about kirtan, which is essential. When we come together, he was saying that sometimes devotees, they come together and they just kind of, they're a little distracted. And I mean, it's natural to be in kirtan for like an hour or longer. It's difficult to pay attention the whole time. So sometimes devotees, they start to get distracted, they start, anyway, like that. And he was saying that if you come to the 24-hour kirtan, you should help. You should do nothing but help. If you see that there's help needed to play instruments, you do that, and also maintaining proper prayerful mood, consciousness, and worshiping. We come to worship the holy name when we chant. So that's very essential. When we chant the holy name, we should not forget about that. The holy name is in the center, and we should worship the holy name. And if it's necessary for us to get distracted, of course, it's understandable, but ultimately, we should give our full attention, full ears to the holy name. That's our abhideya. Without proper abhideya, without proper hearing and chanting, it's impossible to come to the goal of spiritual life. Prayojana. The goal of spiritual life is that by priti purvakam, by bhajan and priti purvakam, by affectionate bhajan, Krishna reciprocates and it gives us the intelligence, the dami buddhi yogam tam, intelligence how we can come back to Krishna. And then also within the heart, he will manifest light in the form of knowledge, in the form of realizations, in the form of love for Krishna, and that as a shining lamp of knowledge, he will dissipate the darkness born of ignorance, he says. So that's the prayojana, that's the goal. These two verses explain about the goal of our spiritual practice. And also the text mentions about the preaching, how it's important when we, for example, arrange preaching programs to non-devotees, people who are not familiar with our movement. We should always bring books and try to share these books with people. That would be the good success of our preaching. Because if we don't bring books and just say something, it's not as successful. Srila Prabhupada would emphasize that. He was always very jubilant and happy to know. Srila Prabhupada is a very good cook. One time I heard one devotee explaining how Srila Prabhupada is such a wonderful cook. He would know the proper spices and seasonings and everything. So it was difficult to please Srila Prabhupada if you want to cook something for him. I mean, at least much more difficult than if you please him in the way of glorifying, sharing literature, the books that he was giving to us. So it's much easier to please Srila Prabhupada in this way. And another thing is that our preaching should be careful. We should be maintaining, relating to the public in a proper way, seeing and understanding who is hearing us. We should be speaking of topics that are easy to understand, proper topics. And if we're preaching among ourselves, there's also a very important component of sadhu sangha. It's called sajjatiya, which means that we should come in a similar mood, supporting each other, and trying to give room for everyone who's trying to glorify Krishna in any way. If you're trying to say something about Krishna and glorify him, we should give that person a chance and support him like that. And about sannyasis, there's also a little mention about sannyasis, how sannyasis are preaching. They should be doing it also very carefully. It says, therefore, the preaching of Krishna consciousness must be done very carefully by the members of Krishna consciousness movement, especially the sannyasis. Srila Prabhupada says, especially the sannyasis. Sannyasis, they should be showing the example of someone who is leading a well-balanced spiritual life, who is renounced, is not attached to worldly things. He is utilizing everything for Krishna's service. And it's exemplary for a sannyasi to come and to speak of Krishna in many ways directly. Not watering down the philosophy, but directly speaking of Krishna and trying to inspire people. In some ways, wake them up from some day-to-day life activity. Sometimes when we engaged in our occupational duties, we might be a little forgetful of Krishna. Of course, not all of us, but it's there. The influence of material energy is very strong. And renounced people, sannyasis, they lead a balanced life. It's described in the Bhagavad Gita, the qualities of work. They have Brahminical, they come to the Brahminical stand. Shamodama tapa shaucham kshantarajvam evacha jnana vigyama astikyam brahma karma sabhavajam. That the Brahmanas, they are peaceful, they are self-control, they are tapa shaucham, they are austere, and very importantly, they're very clean. It's a very important quality for a Brahmana to be very clean. And then Kshantir, Arjavam, they are tolerant and honest. They are Jnana Vijnana, they're knowledgeable, and they realized in the knowledge of the Shastra as well. Astikyam, Brahma Karma Sabhavajam. Astikyam means that they're religious. They follow the Bhagavad Dharma, and they try to convince others and inspire others in following the same way. So this is the qualities of the Brahmanas in work. And these qualities are developed through the process of devotional service, naturally by Diksha initiation. It happens naturally. Sometimes we can't even notice how it happens, but it does if we follow everything strictly. If we put our priorities in the right place, chant the holy name, study the Shastra, like Rupa Goswami was saying, that we should cultivate two things. We should cultivate faith and knowledge. We should study Srimad Bhagavatam. And by association with devotees, we should cultivate faith or get the faith that they have, steal their faith by association, like that. So we'll read the last text. This is text 33, and conclude with that chapter. And then if there are any questions or comments. So this is 8.1.33, translation. Sri Sutta Goswami said, O Brahmanas, when Parikshit Maharaj was awaiting impending death, thus requested Shukadev Goswami to speak. Shukadev Goswami, encouraged by the king's words, offered respect to the king and spoke with great pleasure in the assembly of sages who desired to hear him. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the 8th canto, 1st chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Manos, Administrator of the Universe. So that's what we heard about, the Manos, the four Manos. And now we're coming up to hear about the pastimes of the elephant Gajendra and the crocodile, the battle. Actually, just something that came to mind, speaking about the importance of hearing and reading and glorifying Kṛṣṇa. Yesterday I was at Balboa Park and I met someone. One lady, she was walking through the main street and she was listening to, in her headphones, she was listening to something, and I stopped her. I walked over to her, and I usually just have a big stack of books, so it's noticeable what I'm trying to say. But she said, actually, I like to read. And she took off her headphones, she paused, she put mute on she was in call with someone. And it turned out that it was her husband. And what they do together is they read to each other, which was so interesting to hear. They just call each other and read because they live far distant from each other. And she told me that in my family, it was very prominent. We would do that all the time from my childhood. My parents would read to me, I would read to them. And she loved it. So she wanted to do the same with her husband. And to him, she said it was very unusual. I mean, no one really did that in his life. And what happened, she said, at first I started reading to him, and within 15 minutes he would fall asleep. So I said, let's do the opposite. You read to me, and then I'll hear, and then we'll discuss something. I mean, it's really rare when people do things like that. Even generally, people don't read anymore at all, especially read scripture. That's unheard of for the most part. So yeah, with this, hearing this part of the Srimad Bhagavatam is very nice to remind us of the importance of reading and coming together to discuss and glorify the Lord. It's what we should be doing all the time. We should arrange our time in such a way that we have enough time to do that by ourselves and with other devotees, according to our taste, and it's important to do both, but we do whatever is possible. So thank you so much for hearing this. Ending of the 1st chapter. There's a lot of reading. Thank you for bearing with me. And I'm sure Govardhan Prabhu will give a much more enlightening class tomorrow. He'll open up the new chapter of the elephant Gajendra's crisis. So we'll learn about his situation. And if there are any questions or comments, this is the time. Hare Krishna. Yes, Govardhan. Yeah, she took Kṛṣṇa book. I've been trying to distribute Kṛṣṇa book lately. I feel like it's really inspiring to distribute Kṛṣṇa book. I didn't ask that. but somewhere far away.
Did you ask them what type of books they read?
They actually read, what she was reading, she told me she was reading something in I forgot the name, but something about India, like a novel about Indian king or something like that she was mentioning. But they read a lot. They read all various kinds of books like that.
I had a question about, somebody told me this recently. It's against Vaishnava etiquette to volunteer to lead for kirtans. And so I was wanting to know, what are your thoughts? And because you mentioned how Indra Prabhu said, oh, you should be helpful and if you know how to play instruments, but like let's say in the temple room, nobody's gonna ask you, and if you see a need that like there's a lack of somebody singing, how do you go about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we're always waiting to be engaged in the kirtan or speaking, although sometimes the devotees are really, really eager and they want to show the enthusiasm. But yeah, the etiquette is that we wait to be engaged in service. And I mean, what I was trying to say is that sometimes we get distracted, and instead of really hearing the holy name and chanting the holy name, we do something else. We might talk between each other like that. So it's not proper, at least my understanding is. And if there's a need, like for example, during Ratha Yatra, in the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there were different parties going to sing the holy name. There were different leaders, and at least 2 mridangas in each party. Kartals were playing too. I don't remember how many people play kartals, but a few of them would play kartals. So I mean, it's just nice if we see that everyone's engaged, and the best way to be engaged in kirtan is to support it in playing instruments, or at least trying to dance or chant sincerely. It makes a difference. Makes a huge difference. From my little experience, I can say it does make a difference.
I have a question and a comment. I don't know if you remember or if you've heard this, but Prabhupada was reading his own Kṛṣṇa book with who was one of that secretary, Shruti Kirti, and he turned to him and he said, "This is such a wonderful book. Even if someone just reads 1 page, they can go back to guided." And then he waited a few seconds, even just 1 sentence. And then, of course, even just 1 word. So I was just thinking this might be a way to sell Kṛṣṇa books. Of course, they might just say, "Oh, let me look at the book and read 1 word," and say, "That's well, I'm all back." But they probably wouldn't do that. And the other thing, I have a question for Ramapati. He might know. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita we find, and I think he may have been referring to this, they describe the parties when Lord in chapter 13 of the Madhya Lila, that's describing the Ratha Yatra, what happened every year. And Lord Chaitanya would organize these parties, right? And I remember so and so was the leader, and these devotees responded to him. Now, my question is, because there's no mics, there's no amplification. So is it that those other devotees would sing along with him, and so they would have 8 devotees, leading? Because if you have 1 million people, and you just this 1 voice, I thought that maybe that was how they did the amplification. Because I remember once on a kirtan here, we didn't always have such reliable amplification. This was during your day. I have some pictures, by the way, of Ramapati when he was 18 or so, on Harinam. You might want to see it downtown. And that we had to do that. I think I was leading, and then 2 or 3 others who were chanting with me, so that the voice would be. And I was thinking maybe is that the way it was in those traditional kirtans, without any amplification? You'd have 1 person who was a leader, but others would, like we did, follow him, and you're not sure. Come on, you must have been there. He'd been reincarnated in his... Anyway, I'll look into it, but it's fascinating to me.
Yeah, it says... Okay.
So about the Kṛṣṇa book distribution, if you arrange the book properly, each time you go to take another book out, you have Srila Prabhupada's smiling face looking right up at you. Just love that Krishna book distribution.
Yeah, that's nice. What I do is I have a big stack of books like this, and I put a Krishna book facing, and then I approach people, and I just say something like, "There's nothing more ecstatic and glorious for the soul than just to read about the Supreme Being's pastime. So, please take this." And then I also introduce it. Maybe it's not really bona fide, but I was able to give this book to quite a few people. I was saying that this is an adventurous comic book about Lord Krishna. You should read it if you like comic books. And people would take it. And of course the pictures also sell the books. There's so many wonderful colored pictures. It's really attractive to people. It is.
What will you say is like good like strategies to get people to dance like in kirtans or like in Krishna lounge, like to have like more vibe that everyone is singing, everyone is like I don't know clapping or dancing. What will you say like is a good like technique for that happening?
It's contagious. You start dancing yourself and come to people and then engage them, and everyone will
pick them up.
Oh yeah. Sometimes people get up. Not often, but sometimes, devotees start getting up. Like Virachana Prabhu, I remember he would get up and start dancing. But usually it's a sitting kirtan, so it's hard to really engage people. So, but I think that from what I was observing, I think it's good to glorify the holy name before we start chanting, so people kind of have understanding of what we're doing. So say a few things about the holy name, and then people can really enter the mood, And sometimes what they do, if you watch kirtan, listen to kirtan, sometimes there's a speaking kirtan, like you chant and then you take a pause and then you say some pastimes or something in glorification to the holy. That's also attractive. Yeah, kirtan mala, they do that. So that's another thing for the sitting kirtan. But for standing, you just come up to them and start dancing, start inviting them in. Like that. I'm sure devotees wouldn't mind that. It makes everyone happy and joyful. So, for example, usually when the guests come to our Sunday feast, some brahmacharis, they start engaging, like ISV devotees. They just start engaging everyone. Take them out of the crowd and start dancing with them, and everyone reciprocates very nicely. So that's something we can do. Anything else? Okay, thank you. We'll conclude here. Thank you so much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.